So, are you an incoming college or high school student looking to see which iPad you should buy? Well, you've come to the right place. My name is Sears, and I've been an avid iPad user for the past 5 years, through my undergrad and grad school years. And in today's video, we're going over every single new iPad available to see which one you should buy, starting with the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro is what I would call the everything you need plus tablet. Let me explain. Taking a look at the raw stats, the iPad Pro is very beefy, coming with all of the bells and whistles, such as the OLED screen and M4 processor. These two combined will make for a great tablet experience, at a pretty high price. This is what it'll cost you with accessories. The OLED or organic LED screen means you will get absolutely beautiful colors on the display with a 120Hz refresh rate thanks to Apple ProMotion, meaning it'll look far smoother than the other iPads, especially since it rocks the fastest processor of the lineup, although you probably won't be able to tell that it is very much faster than the others, besides the screen being smoother because of the refresh rate, since all the iPads in this list are limited by their operating system. I'll talk about that more later. But for the ultra professional individuals out there, you'll be very satisfied with this device. Utilizing all of the different accessories and different apps, sold separately of course, the iPad Pro can be quite the behemoth of a tablet. But that extreme price and pretty high bar to actually benefit from this tablet over the others makes me believe that the better option for almost all of you is what comes next. Let's talk about the iPad Air. This is what I would consider to be the everything you need plus tablet, meaning it has everything you need and more. Here are the raw stats. Note, there are two sizes for this laptop as well. It's not going to be as over the top as the iPad Pro, but what it lacks in certain features here and there, it makes up for in price. Here's the total. The iPad Air is far more cost efficient for students, and it might still have too many features for many of you. The screen is still great, not OLED like with the Pros, but Apple has a great track record for the wonderful Retina screens. You really won't be disappointed with them. Moreover, the M2 processor of the iPad Air, although not as powerful as the M4 and the iPad Pro, is still likely going to yield mostly the same results. Because like I said, limitations with the operating system, so no worries about the performance of this tablet either. It will literally run anything compatible with an iPad, especially since the chip it has right now used to be used in the iPad Pro. Besides that, the iPad Air is a thin and light device with two sizes for your preference. I personally rock the iPad Air in college, and it has been a wonderful device for me. Zero issues. I would highly recommend this tablet in addition to another one coming up. But first, this next one is a bit more niche. Let's discuss the iPad mini. Here are the raw stats. Frankly, this one I haven't seen too much in college and haven't used extensively either because it's just not that popular. I would consider this iPad the everything you need minus for most of you. From my own personal experience, I like the fact that it's small and easily portable. But for note taking, it's more of a notepad than a notebook. I guess literally taking the pad out of iPad. That smaller frame, while great for ease of transportation, means that you won't have much space to work with. So it's not really as usable as, say, a notebook. But for small things like lists and whatnot, it's doable for them. I've had friends who were able to rock the iPad mini for our freshman year, but the size was the main drawback because you just can't write as much as you want, which can be negligible for some, but for probably most of you, it's a bit too small and a bit too pricey. Being $150 more expensive than the newer entry-level iPad, the iPad 10, here's the total cost. The iPad mini is best for those with specific personal preferences, like smaller hands and specific needs. But at the moment, because this hasn't been updated in nearly 3 years as of June 2024, I would recommend waiting for the new version of the iPad mini, possibly coming out in the fall, or just choosing a different iPad altogether, like the next one, which is good for probably all of you. In regards to the best budget-friendly iPad, there is no better option than the entry-level variant, the iPad 10. Here are the raw stats. Released in fall 2022, the iPad 10 is a solid option for most students who want to get into digital note-taking, and I would call this the everything you need iPad. Even considering how the other iPads have better performing processors, and this model will likely get an update in the fall, I still believe most students would be satisfied with this device. Truthfully, this iPad can probably satisfy all of your needs. It can be used for note-taking, meetings, editing photos and video, content consumption, etc. And most importantly, it truly doesn't break the bank like the others. this is the total cost. Now, I know what I said about the iPad Air. It really is the most solid option out there, and it's one of the most recently updated tablets in this list. But if you're budget conscious, which would be understandable given how expensive college can be, I would say the iPad 10 is also a fair option. The only problem I have with it being its storage capacity. I'll talk about this more in a moment, but the 64 gigabytes starting can be a bit tough for many of you if you take pictures, download many apps, and or send messages. So we can either upgrade the storage or upgrade the device. We'll discuss that more in my recommendation. Alright, and now that we've gone through all of the different iPads, let's talk about my recommendations. Now before we get started, disclaimer, you cannot just get an iPad. For school and college, you'll need a computer as well. More so than a tablet. So remember, a tablet is more of an accessory item to your setup and will cost a bit more than advertised because its accessories are sold separately. So with those facts in mind, which is the best iPad for you? For most students, I believe the iPad 10 is a great budget-friendly device that will satisfy all of your needs. The only thing I would caution is its storage capacity. I've been able to make 64 gigabytes work for 5 years, but I also don't take photos or message people on my own iPad. So if you want to get a bit more storage, but not too much, I'd say just go for the iPad Air instead. It'll support double the amount, which should be good enough for most of you. It's also been upgraded recently, so it will be supported for longer, and it has a more powerful processor. But if you need more than 128 gigabytes, you can always just upgrade the iPad 10. Really, for most of you, you can't go wrong with either the iPad 10 or iPad Air. The only consideration being your budget. So first place goes to both the iPad 10 and iPad Air. Now, going to more niche tablets, the iPad Pro. It's tough to recommend the iPad Pro to students because it's incredibly expensive and pretty tough to justify, I think. There are a lot of quality of life features with a tablet, such as the 120Hz refresh rate, the OLED screen, and even the camera, which I know they kind of look goofy, but here are a few photos I took with it just to show how good the camera is. And this is the selfie camera. But overall, even with that said, it won't make too much of a difference in your daily life. So if you want the best of the best tablet and can afford it, again, for most of you, the iPad Air will probably suffice, get the iPad Pro, second place. And lastly, for the iPad mini, I would say this is the most niche of the bunch. It's pretty small, so it's best for those with smaller hands. But do note that it also isn't too easy to take notes with just because of that smaller screen. Moreover, it is the oldest device on the list, so I would actually suggest waiting, if you can, until the new one arrives. Until then, I'd put it in third place and suggest you either go for the iPad 10 or iPad Air. Ultimately though, this really is your decision. I'm a huge fan of iPads. In fact, I would chalk up much of my success, especially during my undergraduate years, to how I wrote my notes on my iPad. It truly guaranteed my success. So if you use these right, you will not just survive your classes, but thrive. If you'd like to learn more about how I take my notes on my iPad, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll make a video on it. Besides that, make sure to check out these iPads at your local Best Buy or tech store to see which one best fits you, especially since the iPad Air and Pro come with 2 different sizes. So focus on your needs and budget, and I'm sure you'll make the right decision. My name is See Rooster. It's spelled like Cyrus, but not like See Rooster. Just take out the ter. Thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful day. Peace.